Hi everyone and welcome to my channel and to this little time-lapse version of a small study in soft pastel featuring my own girl Lola and one of our favourite forest walks. I hope that you enjoy this here. I will release real-time tutorials from this on my Patreon channel if you're interested. But if you do enjoy this here, then please do subscribe here on YouTube as well. I've been working on lots of different little studies recently, trying to break out of my normal approach to painting and experiment a little bit more. And what better way to experiment than to try and capture some of my favourite bits of forest walk with my own little girl Lola. And she makes a great subject matter with her bright white colouring. She's always got these interesting bits of light and shade on her. And that's what really drew me to this picture, where she's got very unusual shadows being cast from some of the greenery around her. But my first step, as always these days with these smaller studies, is to try and get a good amount of it blocked in early on. So picking up purples and more vibrant colours, trying to lay down my base layer of colour with a nice vibrant feel to it. And putting all of these marks down right across the whole picture. So trying to cover most of the paper from the very start. And then hoping to work the picture more as a whole. So this is a step away from my usual very detailed style of working. And I'm really enjoying experimenting with these slightly smaller studies so that I don't have to feel like I need to add lots of detail. I can leave them quite loose and colourful. But I'm really enjoying working in this quite a contrasting style to my normal style. So with the first bit of blocking in done, then I have actually blended that pastel into the paper, so you can see that I've rubbed it all over and covered all of the paper. And apart from this, there's really minimal blending in this painting style. I'm trying to use the marks of the soft pastel sticks. I'm not really using much pastel pencil. You can see a little bit coming in for some of the parts of the dog that were a little bit tricky on the scale, because you can see she's quite small. But most of the work being done with those bigger chunky soft sticks, which give me such lovely vibrance of colour. So I get the little dog blocked in and then continue working on the rest of the landscape. Now, landscapes are something that I'm still finding my way with, and this year especially I've been experimenting loads on these smaller studies, trying to work a different way, using different types of paper, different materials, really trying to switch up my normal techniques and see if I can inject something fresh and different into my normal work. So this time I'm using Sennelier pastel card. This is a paper that I've used a few times before, and I really enjoy the texture of this paper. It takes a surprising number of layers of pastel. It's really good at accepting more and more layers. And when you do blend on the paper, you do get a lovely soft effect, and the colours just merge together beautifully. But if you're going for that looser, unblended style where you get more of a sense of the marks that come from the pastel sticks, then this paper does that really nicely too. You've got a nice bit of texture there to create quite naturally the texture on the bark of the trees, for example. This paper really lends a hand when it comes to creating some of those natural textures that we find. So I've been also trying to keep them much quicker. Detail takes time, and it's normally a very laborious method of painting that I use. One that I really enjoy because I love spending many hours on a painting and going into immense detail. I really get sucked into the detail. But with these, I'm trying to work differently, trying to not let myself slow down and focus on one area for too long. I'm trying to keep myself moving across the picture. And as I said at the start, building it up more as a whole rather than working on one small area at a time. And I'm really enjoying how that seems to bring the whole scene out gradually. It looms out of the muddy darkness, and all of a sudden it starts to have the feel of the place. And that's what I'm loving about capturing these little scenes, because I walk here all the time and I'm always quite frustrated that normally landscapes take me a very long time to paint. And it limits me as to how many landscapes I can paint. And that sometimes makes me feel a bit pressured when it comes to choosing an image to paint, because I know that it's a big commitment of my time. And sometimes it makes it difficult for me to choose just one image to have a go at. Whereas with this style of painting, I have a whole list of these lovely little images that I've taken that I would like to have a go at. And if I can do them all sort of between 2 or 3 hours, maybe 4 hours at the most, then I should be able to capture lots of these little scenes and hopefully become a bit more proficient in this style as well. So that's my aim this year, to work on different styles, work on different pastel surfaces, really try to experiment. And over on my Patreon channel, I've been sharing these experiments too. Because as well as making tutorials where I know exactly what I'm doing and I know exactly how to show you how to do it, what I'm finding with these little demos is that it doesn't always go to plan for me. I don't always get the effect that I was hoping for. Sometimes I struggle to get it how I want it to be. And that means that sometimes I'm experimenting with getting rid of a certain area and trying again. And it's really testing the paper and my materials a lot too. And I think this is all useful knowledge to share with you as well. I know that many of my patrons have been enjoying some of these little demos where not only am I telling you how to do something, but sometimes I'm telling you how not to do something. So I make mistakes, I've got to make corrections, and I think that in seeing all of that, it's very useful for a beginner artist as well. Even just psychologically, to know that an artist like myself who has worked in this medium for many years, I still have the feeling of being a beginner when I throw myself into a different style or when I'm working on a new paper that I haven't tried before. We've all got that feeling where you have a lapse in confidence. You feel like your painting isn't going right. So I'm right in that zone with you guys at the minute, and these little studies, they really throw me out of my normal comfort zone, and I am enjoying sharing that with my patrons too, because of course sometimes it's easy to think that I don't make mistakes and that everything always goes right for me in my paintings. Well, I'm enjoying showing that that is not the case, and when I'm less sure of what I want to achieve from the painting, sometimes it can go a little bit wrong for me too. But I hope that in sharing these little experiments that it will inspire you to experiment as well, that it will take away that fear that we all have of messing something up or making a mistake or something just not turning out very good. So I hope that in sharing these experiments with you, that you'll feel inspired to give it a go. So one example of where I decided to redo an area is this bottom right corner. I really didn't like the leaves and the grasses that I'd brought in there. And you can see that I just scrubbed it all out with my fingertips, applied some dark pigment again, and went in fresh with these long grasses, which are casting a lot of shadows on the dog. So the Sennelier pastel card is really good. It allows you to make mistakes, get rid of an area and go again. It's really quite a forgiving paper to work on. So if you'd like to have a go at this in real time, I will release the little demo on my Patreon channel. And you'll already find a few others a bit like this over there if you fancy giving something like this a go. And of course, please do check out all of my other playlists here on YouTube, as I have lots of free demos here on YouTube for you to have a go at. And then, of course, lots and lots of instructional videos answering many of your questions about soft pastel. I've been using soft pastel since about the age of 13 or 14 when I first discovered some very cheap student grade pastels, but it was enough to get me hooked. And in all of that time of doing portrait commissions, this is really the first chance in my career that I'm getting the opportunity to experiment more and to take that time to work on my art and progress myself. And that is mostly due to the support that I get on Patreon. So it's really thanks to those guys over there and their support each month that means I can steer away from commissions and just earning money and start to experiment more and share all of that too. So thanks very much to my supporters on Patreon. A huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed here as well on YouTube. Thanks very much for watching this here on YouTube. And until next time, happy pasteling.